Negotiable Instruments Act, Section 4, Promissory Note. Section 4 of the Negotiable Instruments Act, 1881 defines and explains the legal meaning and essential characteristics of a promissory note. This provision lays down the mandatory ingredients that must be present for any written instrument to qualify as a valid promissory note in the eyes of law. A promissory note is a formal written instrument, other than a banknote or currency note, which contains a clear, definite, and unconditional promise made by one person, called the maker, to pay a specified sum of money to another person. This payment must be made either to a certain person, to the order of that person, or to the bearer of the instrument. In essence, a promissory note represents a legally enforceable written promise to pay money, and it creates a direct obligation on the maker to discharge the stated monetary liability in accordance with the terms of the note. 1. Essential elements of a promissory note. For a document to be recognized as a promissory note under Section 4, the following conditions must be strictly satisfied. A. It must be in writing. The promise to pay must be expressed in a written form. Oral promises or verbal commitments do not qualify. B. It must contain an unconditional undertaking to pay. The promise must be absolute and not subject to any contingency, event, or condition. If the payment depends on an uncertain event, the instrument will not be a promissory note. C. It must be signed by the maker. The person who makes the promise must sign the instrument, thereby accepting legal responsibility for payment. D. It must involve payment of a certain sum of money. The amount payable must be definite and ascertainable from the instrument itself. E. It must be payable to a certain person, to the order of that person, or to the bearer. The pay must be clearly identifiable. The instrument should specify to whom the money is to be paid. F. It must not be a banknote or currency note. Banknotes and currency notes are expressly excluded from the definition. 2. Nature and legal effect. A promissory note establishes a direct and primary liability on the maker to pay the stated amount. Unlike a bill of exchange, where a third party is directed to make payment, a promissory note involves only two parties, the maker and the payee, and the maker himself undertakes the obligation to pay. Because it is a negotiable instrument, a promissory note can be transferred from one person to another, and the holder in due course acquires the right to receive payment. Illustrative. For example, if a writes and signs a document stating, "I promise to pay B or order 50,000 rupees, this document satisfies all the legal requirements of a promissory note under Section 4. However, if a writes, "I promise to pay B 50,000 rupee if I receive my salary next month," this would not be a valid promissory note because the promise is conditional. For more details, contact us.